So I'm almost 2 years late on this one, but what can I say? Life is Strange True Colors just passed me by upon release, but I finally decided to give it a shot now that it has been added to the PlayStation Plus Extra lineup of games, and decided to talk about it because my views on the game didn't line up with other reviews at all. Although I overall enjoyed my time with it, the rave reviews it got from most critics and fans upon release were, to me, sort of unwarranted. So I decided to review it and share my take on YouTube. So here it goes. For those not in the know, an internal shakeup in early 2021 saw key developers from the original Life is Strange team leave Dontnod's main studio in Paris to start their own branch in Montreal and focus on their own IPs. And you know what? Good for them. Go make bank with complete creative control. Anyway, for a moment there, it seemed like the franchise's future was as bleak as Arcadia-based future in the hands of a prize-filled shipper. Square Enix, however, decided to show its benevolent side and kept the franchise alive by moving its development to Deck 9, the studio behind the original Life is Strange spin-off, Before the Storm. In fact, that game's lead writer, Zach Garris, is this new installment's director. So, removed from the constraints that the original Life is Strange evidently imposed on Before the Storm, such as its characters, plot points, and setting, how does Garris and his team at Deck 9 see the franchise? What to them makes Life is Strange Life is Strange? It turns out that, on the surface, Deck 9 doesn't veer off the course as much as one might have worried, keeping many familiar beats from Dontnod's entries. The focus on character bonds, nascent superpowers, and young people trying to figure shit out and deal with trauma are all there, as well as cool indie music, chill sessions for you to vibe with the characters as they enjoy the scenery around them, and, of course, the branching paths that are mandatory in a graphic adventure series like this. When looking at the setup for Life is Strange True Colors, one might feel immediately at home as it introduces Alex Chen, a young woman coming to terms with her unique and pathetic superpowers that, so far in her life, have put her in more trouble than anything else. After spending years in foster care homes and being kept apart from her brother, Gabe, the two finally reconnect after 8 years in Haven Springs, a small mining town in Colorado where Gabe has been trying to raise a family and start anew. In true Life is Strange fashion, it doesn't take long for tragedy to strike, and a major event will shake up Alex's life once again. And get this, I'm not telling you what this event is, because to me, it was one of the most shocking moments in the game, and I would recommend going in blind if you haven't seen any promotional material. But hey, the trailer tells you what the event is, go figure. Anyway, this is a setup that falls in line neatly with the one seen in previous installments of the series. Deck 9's unshackled spin on this familiar formula, however, is decidedly lighter in tone, even when dealing with conspiracy theories and personal tragedies. This has more to do with the world the studio has created than with the characters that inhabit it or the plot itself. Haven Springs is just too colorful of a town to sit alongside Arcadia Bay or the shitholes the Diaz brothers have to hide in. Sure, Blackwell Academy was immaculate, but every other location in the first game is semi-derelict, and the residents of Arcadia Bay don't seem to have the means to keep everything running as it should. The Two Whales is a run-of-the-mill diner, while the Price household is falling into disrepair no matter the timeline you're in. These neglected environments bring a sense of realism and melancholia to the stories of the previous installments. Haven, meanwhile, looks pristine. Even the abandoned refinery in episode 1 of True Colors doesn't look too shabby when compared to the junkyard in the original. The flat on top of the Black Lantern bar and restaurant that Alex will call home throughout the story is a big offender in this regard. It is meant to be messy according to Gabe, but it just looks ridiculously cool. No one in their right mind would consider living in an open-plan, big-ass studio on top of a hip tavern for free anything but sweet. The game's characters like Gabe and Jed, however, act like this is just a small act of charity. Gabe especially sounds even a little embarrassed when offering the studio, it just feels off. His sister was living in foster care all these years, does he really think she would mind any of it? Just compare Joker's makeshift room/deposit in LeBlanc's attic in Persona 5. That looked far more realistic, but still cool. FYI, just looking at it makes my allergies go off, Jesus.
Go the to sleep.
Meanwhile, the housing conditions above the Black Lantern are ridiculous. with a terrace garden to boot. And when you look at the main street of Haven, where most of the action takes place, mind you, this becomes even more obvious. Haven is just too pretty. It looks almost like a neighborhood off of The Sims. It's just Fantasyland. It doesn't look like a small town under the thumb of a giant corporation, as the narrative might suggest. It looks like a utopia. Sure, that could be intentional. The game could be saying that Haven looks and feels perfect because it is hiding a lot of dirt under the rug. Or it could work to contrast Alex's harsh upbringing with an absurdly different reality, expressing how unfair life can be depending on where you're born. However, the narrative does not back up any of these notions as well as it could. I don't want to dive too deep into this because I want to keep this review spoiler-free, but nothing that the narrative explores really justifies Haven being as spotless as it is, and that makes True Colors stand out among the other titles in the series. It makes the tone seem a little off. I said before that True Colors' tonal problem lies more with the town than with its citizens, but that's not entirely true. Characters such as Spike and especially Ducky feel like caricatures, like they are in a completely different game from the others. Few locals are presented as flawed and complicated, like Joyce, David, or Victoria in the original, or Claire, Karen, and Finn in Life is Strange 2. Most are one note, with noteworthy exceptions including Charlotte and Max, especially the former. To be honest, not even Alex is exempt from criticism in this regard. She's a solid protagonist, mind you. Her cool, laid-back, and confident personality carry much of the game. Erika Mori does a great job selling the character and, well, she is kind of easy on the eyes.
Holy shit, you own a skirt?
Her feelings, however, may fade into the background as the game focuses its attention on what everyone else is feeling. At the beginning of episode 2, for instance, we are meant to console one of her friends because she's devastated by a previous event in the story. Alex, however, should be even more devastated as she was even more affected than Steph, but no, Alex is a-okay and just wants to make her friend feel better. Why is she focusing on healing Steph when she probably should be feeling even worse? Is this meant to be a byproduct of her powers? Are Alex's own emotions suppressed because she can absorb and feel what others are feeling? Well, if that's the case, this nuance isn't really explained or explored enough in the story. But hey, that might be due to the narrative's short length. This is one of those things that we might have to write off as pandemic related. Lots of games released in the early 2020s had their production heavily affected, which resulted in less mocap sessions and, well, less story and moments which felt rushed. With supermassive games, The Quarry being a noteworthy example of a game with just ends. I wouldn't be surprised if True Colors was another example of a pandemic oopsie, because the story feels rushed. The first 4 episodes feel like they're slowly building up to something, delivering bite-sized clues to a bigger, daunting mystery. However, after a twist anyone over 12 probably saw from a mile away at the end of the 4th episode, the narrative just ends, albeit after a lovely character examination for Alex that finally gives her the complexity needed to put her in the same conversation as Max Caulfield or Sean Diaz. But still, the ending just feels rushed. You feel like the narrative is slowly building into something bigger, but that never really pays off. It's a bummer, really. When I got to the mandatory Life is Strange, life-changing big decision in the end, I just felt numb, which was a new feeling for a game in the series for me. Where the first game presented me with a no-brainer decision and the second one gave me 2 conclusions which felt absolutely natural and coherent to the way the characters developed throughout the story and had me crying the manliest tears, True Colors' final choices just feel like they were there because someone thought they had to be there. The ending really doesn't reach the emotional heights of the ones in previous titles. It doesn't really. Speaking of choices, let's touch on gameplay for a moment, because it has been simplified to the point where the game has pretty much become a visual novel. Environmental puzzles are mostly gone, button mashing to get a character out of a pickle and quick time events are gone. True Colors removes all of these features that brought a bit more interactivity to the series and focuses on narrative choices, which I'm sure many probably don't mind, but for someone who played Life is Strange 2 and True Colors back to back like I did, the contrast was stark. By now you probably feel that I absolutely hate this game, but that's not the case really. True Colors has its merits. Like I said before, Alex is a worthy protagonist. The LARPing section in Chapter 3 is really inspired and echoes the great tabletop RPG scene from episode 1 of Before the Storm. Oh, speaking of that scene, bringing Steph back for a new game was an inspired choice, especially as a romanceable character. Romance, for those who care about it, is vastly improved from previous installments. While Sean Diaz could get romantically involved with a manic pixie dream girl with dreads or a manic pixie dream boy with dreads, Ryan and Steph are both fully fleshed out characters, and their dynamic as a trio is pretty fun to follow. And of course, the motion capture is absolutely superb in this one. Gary's explained in an interview for Games Radar that for True Colors they recorded full body performance, facial capture, and voiceover all at the same time, similar to what would happen on a TV or movie set. According to him, it puts a lot more of the burden on the actors and on the director, but it also produces holistically a much more expressive and nuanced performance. Every single second of cinematic animation is bespoke for that moment, and we're telling stories through every gesture, every shrug, every movement of the eye. The result is incredibly immersive and compelling. There are no library animations, it's just our actors performing through the narrative. And really, he's not overselling his own project here. It truly was an immersive experience full of nuance, like he said. The game is worth your time. You just have to be aware that the melancholic, bittersweet ambience of the original and 2 are not really here anymore. How do I put this? Imagine the Life is Strange games are grapes. Life is Strange 1 was like a big-ass red globe, mostly sweet with some sour notes and seeds in the way of the fun. Life is Strange 2 is like a sour yet snappy and crisp green grape. It is not for everyone, but those who are into it love it. True Colors, on the other hand, is like cotton candy grapes. Really sweet, no seeds or complexity in taste. Still tasty, but not really the same kind of experience. But hey, if you love grapes, you definitely like this game and should check it out. Does that make sense to you? It did to me at least. So that's all for today. If you have made it to the end of the video, have a cookie. You deserve it. Thank you. I gotta stress that I'm a newcomer on YouTube, so I beg you, please like, subscribe, share, click on the notification button, comment, send smoke signs, the whole shebang. It really helps a small channel like mine and gives me the will to keep going on this platform. Okay? If you like Life is Strange and disagree with my view, I recommend checking Podcast Now's ranking of the series, as their views are decidedly different. That's it. I'll see you when I see you.